Hello, welcome to Paxton Road TV. I am Sam, Spurs for Life, and this is episode number 55 of Talking Points, our weekly show where we talk all things Tottenham. And this week we are talking, if you had to choose this summer, Conte or Kane, before everybody loses their minds and saying, why is Sam Spurs trying to get these players? Why are you getting us to choose? It is just a theoretical question, just to see what your thoughts are. I hope we don't have to do anything like that in the near future, make a choice between the two. And I'm not sure a situation where we'd have to do that. But it might be just a bit of a prompt to see who's more important to you. What would you think about, if Conte was to leave as opposed to Harry Kane? Both of them performing very well at the moment. Anyway, Without going on and rambling on, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Make sure you do. And now, introducing, as always, Paxton Road superstar guest in the house, Darius 3K, and from us, Sid. Sid says, and Stat Sid, it's Sid Spurs in the house as well. Good evening.
That was a tongue twist. I was impressed you got that, to be fair. That was impressive.
Yeah. I try. Let's get the banner up. Okay, so again, just make sure that people are aware. It's not a case of like, well, we're going to do Conte's going to be going. No. And I'm not trying to do anything. Trying to get rid of anybody. Just want to see where we're at. It's not really. It's kind of a really difficult one to kind of. I say it's difficult. You might have a choice about who you think might be more value. The way I look at it is I kind of measure up. What's the value to the club? Who's likely to have more longevity? What's more important to the club now, as opposed to in the future? Do you know what I'm saying? So again, I'll start with you then, Darius. Firstly, just as a broad question, then, who would you choose if you had to choose before we get into the reasons why? Just a straight Conte or Kane.
Short answer.
Is it that easy? Or
short answer, I would have to probably go Conte. The reason I say that is because, to be honest with you, I think they both have about the same amount of time sort of left at Spurs. If you were to hypothetically think about it like that, I think Kane probably is got no more than 2 years, 3 years left at Tottenham. And I also would say the same for Conte. If he was going to stay for the longest time, I'd imagine him staying is potentially 3 years, maybe 2 years. So I think you got to think about what would be most useful for Tottenham. And at the end of the day, I think Conte and PRTv could find a striker who wouldn't necessarily get the same output out of Kane, but with the money you get for Kane, if you sell him, let's say you get 100 million this summer, the money you get for Kane, I think you could get a striker and a creative midfielder who could fill that void that Harry Kane does, because it isn't going to be one player that's going to replace Harry Kane's output. We all know Harry Kane's a one-of-a-kind player. You can't replace Harry Kane with a Harry Kane-esque player because there's nobody like him. So as long as it's sort of a smart acquisition in the market and you get a striker of high quality and a creative midfielder of high quality, I actually think that sort of the transition from Kane moving on wouldn't be that bad. And it would also allow a lot of players to shine in areas where Kane leaves. So yeah, Kane is an important player, but at the same time, we won't get a manager like Conte in forever, I think. And I think if you give him the right tools, he's proven his track record is trophies, and that's what we want. So I think he is better for the club. I think Kane is obviously the club through and through, but in terms of what we want trophies, and Kane's been here a long time and there's been no trophies. And Conte, I can see trophies sort of coming quicker. So that's probably why the long answer why I choose Conte.
So okay, that's fair. That's a fair point. I'll come to Sid there, then we can have a bit more of a discussion. Sid, Conte or Kane, if you had to choose, just on the basis of one of them.
So your logo is, if you could choose this summer, Conte or Kane, I'd choose next summer, not this summer. No, do you know what? I think exactly what Darius said. The thing is, if Kane has only got a season or 2 seasons yet, maximum, like you were saying, maybe he can probably get another 4 years out of him, but his maximum potential, we're going to probably get 2 years out of him. Whereas he goes, there's replacements out there. But if you want a top-class manager running this club and trying to get us to trophies and stuff like that, then Conte is the obvious to keep, because give him his ammunition and we know he'll fire and he'll deliver. So it's got to be Conte, But I'm going to throw a spanner in the works here now. Why can't we have both?
I think they probably are linked, aren't they?
Yeah, they're. Oh, no, I was going to say that. I think Cody Matt mentioned that it's like they come as a package deal because, you know, the moment Conte relies on Kane because Kane's obviously world-class player, and Kane's, you know, obviously very, very happy that Conte's there as a world-class manager. Very similar to when Jose came, he's got that bit of a bounce, and he was like, you know, he's impressed by that sort of standard. However, now let's get into this a little bit more. So again, I'm trying to just throw things out there. So, you know, you both kind of said that Conte probably is the more important. Looking ahead, you know, you could probably get a value for Kane. You could sell Kane, get potentially 80 million for him. That could replace a couple of players. But the way Kane's playing at the moment, you know, who are you going to get for that sort of money? Let's say Kane was to go for 80 million. Let's say, because he's not going to go for much more. His contract running out 2024. So that's, you know, 2 years left at the end of this summer. You know, so his price is going to start dwindling. He holds all the cards. Are we really likely to get a playmaker of that level, a goal scorer who's likely to be getting 20, his stats have proven 20 odd goals per season over the amount of seasons he's playing for us? And you take that risk if Harry Kane says, I'm committing myself to Spurs, that's it. 5-6 years, that's it. You know, we saw yesterday, Karim Benzema, 34, knocking him in for Real Madrid. Kane's 28, 29 this year, still potentially 5 more years of good level of football. Manager could go. If Kane commits his future to the club, I think we're going to see him get 20 goals a season. I know we had the bit of a blip with the Nuno signing, but provided they get a decent manager, let's say Conte walks early part of next season, all of that said, you know what I mean? If you kept your money on Conte and got rid of Kane, I think you'd been in a bit of trouble there. So I'm just throwing out there, is Kane more important if he were to commit his future to Spurs, let's say for the long haul for the next 6 years? What's your thoughts on that, Darius? Would that make a difference?
I agree with you. I think you could even look at strikers like Lewandowski as well, who's 30, I think he's the same age, 33, 34. I think he scored 40 plus goals for the last 7 years. Yes, it's a Bundesliga, but still that is a ridiculous feat. My only thing is Kane is a lot more injury prone than those players. He seems to have improved with his fitness level. He hasn't been injured in recent times, to be fair, despite playing a lot of games, but Kane always has a big injury. I think that will hamper his sort of progress going further on into his career, because you have to have a physique of basically a god to continue playing. Ronaldo's not 36 and playing, and Zlatan's not 40 and playing, because, you know, they don't work out every single day and train every single day and every single second of their life. So it's a lot of commitment. However, I think Cody Mack's
is Harry Kane not the person to be that committed person?
I do agree he will do that.
Professionalism, the way that, you know, Conte talks about him, he stays after training. I know it's a bit of a cliche, you know, but he lives the life of a footballer. He's not really seen out clubbing. You know, he's not a Jack Grealish. You know, he's not one of them players you're going to see strolling in at 5 a.m. in the morning off the back of, you know, a hard night out. So he lives the life. He is
a proper football man, and I do agree with that. But your body, you can only do as much as your body can take, and if one big bad injury happens to his ankle once more, I think it could really do a lot to his career in the future. But regardless of that, I think Cody Mack has a bit of truth in what you're saying. I think you could probably get more than 80 million. I think, you know, there's players out there. I mean, Christopher Nkunku for me would be the one that you get as a creative player who scored. I think he's scored 28 goals and assisted 13 or something ridiculous like that. He would come in for me in the midfield. And then you go and get a striker who maybe fits a profile slightly different to Harry Kane. And also you forget that whenever Harry Kane is out and isn't playing, Son sort of steps up to score a lot of goals for the team. And with him also becoming maybe the talisman for Spurs and the sort of legend for Spurs in that team, he might sort of add a few more goals to his tally as well. So you might not need to necessarily get a striker who can score 30 goals a season. It might be somebody who's very, very talented, like a Osimhen, like a Jonathan David, who could score a lot of goals. But Son will also contribute to that. And I also think that, like I said, if you get the right creative midfielder, you can get a bunch of goals from midfield with players, and especially in Conte's system as well. So I think it's just being smart and getting the right players in. That being said, if you get the wrong players in and you don't sort of replace that goal output, then it's going to look very, very bad. But I mean, how many times has that happened at Tottenham? I hope PRTv is good enough to not do that. But I still think that, yeah, Kane is as good as he is and as amazing he could be for a long time. An injury away, he could be a big injury away from retiring early. I really do believe that. So
We can say the same about. Sorry, Sid. I'm going to come to you first before we go into it a little bit more. So let me just change this slightly here. Things are just, live TV and that. Does that look like that's all right? Okay. So 80 million pounds. I think that's quite a significant amount. The reason I said 80 million, like it could be between 80 and 100.
But like 80 plus 20 add-ons, won't it, or something like that?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get this magical 100 million for Kane. He's got 2 years left on his contract at the end of this season. He's 29 by the end of this season. I know I've talked about his longevity going into 33, 34, but that again takes into account, as you were saying, Darius, the injury record. Potentially that's a bit of a risk. The older you get in your career, the more risk that you're going to be taking with your body anyway. So there is that potentially could get injured somewhere down the line. So that being said, do you think that 80 million is not a decent amount for him? What do you think, Sid?
You know what? I think we discussed this today, didn't we? And we said between about 100, we said, didn't we? Depending on what City or Man United are going to be willing to pay for him. I think there's nobody else is going to come in. Forget Chelsea now; they ain't going to come in for him for anything, not even toffees. But if probably be Man United or Man City. And do you know what I feel? Man City might even take that £100 million risk because they know if we pay 100 million for him now at the way he's playing, he could win as the Champions League. If they don't win the Champions League this year, potentially with his goal scoring next season, he could win them the Champions League. And for me, Pep might be thinking, do you know what? Even if I've got him, I've paid 100 million. If he wins me that Champions League next season, Pep will be like, you know what? I'm done now. I'm happy now. I've won the Champions League finally. And we paid 100 million for Kane. At the moment, the way he's playing, he's sort of coming back to his best form again. So I think 100 million is a very good price for him. I can't see us getting any more than 100 million. Because like that, Darius saying injury prone. I mean, it's one injury away. Hopefully it's not going to happen and he's going to fire us through to what we need to. But if Conte stays, then he ain't going nowhere. Because I've got a funny feeling Conte ain't going to let him go. And I think part of his demands in the summer window will be go and get me X player, but you ain't selling Kane. As long as I'm going to be here and I'm committing, you ain't selling Kane.
So both of you are saying at the moment that Conte to be more valuable. Is that correct? Am I right?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Conte being more valuable because of the fact that look who it is.
Interested to hear his answer.
Who's knocked on the door?
Swap us, Sam.
Yeah. Sam comfortable, isn't it? Look who's knocked on the door. I thought I had the breaking news thing, but I've lost it now. I can't even put the breaking. Is he? Can he hear us? Can you hear us, Hustler? He's looking into the camera very as if, I don't know. Well, we'll continue on anyway until he comes back to us. What was I saying? I was saying something about, you both said Conte because of the fact that he could be the person to rebuild. But what if Harry Kane proves to be that good that without Harry Kane, Conte cannot, rebuild? How long would it take? Would it be a case of he'd need more than just the 80 to 100 million to get? So if Kane left and he was only said, right, you can only replace with the 100 million you get for Kane, do you think he
wouldn't be happy with that. He wouldn't be happy with that.
So do you think Conte could do more without Kane then, with the 100 million, or with Kane? Because that will tell me how much the value of Conte is to Kane.
That's a really good question.
If Kane was to leave and you get the 100 million, you could say to Conte, right, you can only spend this 100 million now, and I want to see improvements. Harry Kane's left. I'm not quite sure we could see that with just replacing Harry Kane with that money. I agree. If you do it over a long period of time and you add another 100 million and potentially get 3 or 4 players in over a period of time, the team would be better in terms of the longevity. But immediately, summer comes, Kane goes, we get 100 million, we spend it on 2 players.
Can I ask you this question then, Sam?
And do something. Yeah.
Can I ask you this question? Because I think that's a great point what you make, and it does almost make me sort of reconsider about the now, about the importance of the now. But what happens if you don't sell Kane? Where does the money come from then? And how do you improve the team to then be competing and playing of the level of Kane then? If you see where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Because if you keep Kane, cool, I get that. But then where are the funds coming from to then improve the team to then compete at the level that Kane should be competing.
So there's a number of things I would say, and you can all join in as well, because I think there's these examples of that now. We've done so shite in the transfer market with people like Tanguy Ndombele, Lo Celso. You can go on with that sort of list. The combination of 3 or 4 of them players, Dele Alli, you can throw in it. So 3 or 4 of them players who have got some sort of value to other teams, but not that much value to us. I.e., we're not getting goals out of what's his name, Lo Celso, and that graphic showed it. You got Kulusevski, 6 games, 3 goals, 2 assists. 55 games, 3 goals, 2 assists, or whatever it was for Lo Celso.
1 goal. He had 1 goal and 3 assists. He had less.
Even worse.
Yeah.
Even worse. And he's valued at what? 50 million? Something like that? Do you know what I'm saying? So if you look at it, Kane 100 million. Kane's twice the player that Lo Celso is, but he's not. You know, if you look at it on the value of it, that 50 million, and let's say you got 40 million for Tanguy Ndombele, those 2 players wouldn't be enough in hindsight now to replace Kane. So we've got to look at this whole thing about, I'm only looking at it from just having that 100 million. Does that make a difference if Conte could only spend that, whether or not he was more valuable?
It definitely does. It definitely does.
Sid, what's your thoughts?
I think, you know what, it depends, right? It depends on if that 100 million, it depends on what the type of player Conte wants. And if Conte can get maybe 1 or 2 players that he thinks are good enough, and like Darius said, a good striker and maybe somebody else. We don't have to go and get a striker that's going to get us 30 goals. However, if you can go and get 2 players, or maybe 2, I think probably 2 will get, that can get a combination of 30 between them, and you throw Son in there as well and Kulu, then I think he would be happy with that. But if he's thinking for 100 million, I ain't going to get what I want, or I'm only going to get 1 player, and if they're reluctant on selling Kane, then I think Conte walks as well, because he's made it so many times clear that Kane is his main man. And
Sid as well. Can I just add on to that as well? Because you mentioned sort of bringing those players in. We also have to sort of look at the fullback situation, or more, should I say, the right wing back situation. You get in a good right wing back, and I'm not even saying you have to go and pay 50-odd million for a Tariq Lamptey. Jed Spence is available for 15 million. If you go and get somebody who fits the system for a wing back, you're going to see the level of creativity and the amount of creativity in the team sort of almost skyrocket. I mean, I take Inter Milan when they brought in Hakimi for Conte, it almost completely changed the team, and nobody really thought he was going to have that much of an impact. Obviously, Lukaku as well came in. Everybody thought Lukaku would be the main guy, and he was, but Hakimi coming in allowed them to create so much more. So you bring in a right wing back who can do a lot more than the ones that we've got now. I also think that will then make the players in front of him look even better and create even more. So I just think that Kane is extremely important right now to the system we play, but nothing stopping Conte from changing it and potentially bringing in a bigger striker who can partner Son up front, and then we see a more 3-5-2.
So I would say I would agree with that. So I would look at it like this: if let's say we got 100 million for Kane, and we spent something like 70 million on someone like Dusan Vlahovic, for instance, you could see, because of the age of that player, I could see, he's potentially got the same sort of goal output, maybe not the complete player that Kane is, but over a long period of time, you would hope that player is going to give you that goal output. Because
player profile as well.
And his profile, etc., etc. Then let's say you got 30 million left, which you might be able to get a Bentancur, let's say, for that sort of 30 million. That combination there, very lucky if you got it right. But I look at Kane now, and I think to myself, he goes out of the team. If he committed himself to the club for 5 or 6 years, as I said, we're guaranteed that amount of goals. If you took Kane out, and let's say Conte was to continue on, I'm not to say that Conte's an elite world-class manager. I think he can do wonders, but he's still going to be hamstrung to a point. Another manager's not going to be that far behind Conte. And this is what we had this debate about, has Conte done enough tactically? Because I think, not to say I want this to be this scenario, but if you got someone like Graham Potter who might have the philosophy, and let's say without Kane, Conte finishes around about 7th or 8th, do you think that we'd finish anything much lower than that if we had a Graham Potter?
I think that Graham Potter would require more of a rebuild. However, it might be a lot more consistent, and we might see a lot more like what we're seeing from Arsenal, if you know what I mean. Because Conte is a quick fixer. I mean, he knows what he wants. If you give him what he wants, the turnaround is quick. We saw that. However, with Graham Potter, he would need the players to fit his system, obviously, and he would obviously need time to obviously bed in that system. I think it takes a lot more time to play his sort of role. He's very tactical. It takes a lot to, and same as Conte, but I think that with Graham Potter, you need a lot of young players, a lot of fit players to sort of.
I mean, just so the voice, I'm only using Graham Potter as the example. It could be any manager.
Yeah, it could be any sort of manager like that.
Young,
Bruno Lage,
them sort of managers, not the elite level, but have shown that they've got some ability to one, develop young players, but also to have a system and a way of playing. So let me ask Sid the same thing: Is Conte going to be able to get the same amount out of the team and more than, let's say, if we use the example of Graham Potter, without a Harry Kane in the team? Would Conte that valuable that he could then go over and above what somebody else might be able to do? Because a lot of people have thrown this thing at him that he's only going to do well as if he's given £250 million in the summertime or 300 or whatever it is. We might not have that to spend. Could another manager who doesn't get that amount of money, i.e. what Poch did 5 or 6 years ago, potentially do something with the team over that long period of time?
Well, when he went to Inter Milan, he brought in Ashley Young, and he brought a couple of the old boys in, and they won the title, didn't they? Because he mixed the old with the new. So I think if the push comes to the shove and Kane said, "Yeah, I want to leave," I think Conte has the potential. I think he's got the strategies and the tactics to whoever comes in, whichever players he's got. I think he can rebuild them to the way he wants to play, and he'll probably make the players that we've got. Some of them. He's already made some of them better. He probably could make the other ones better. He probably won't get the expensive players that certain other managers would want or he might want, but he may get like the mid-range players that he knows that are good enough that he can mold into the players that he wants. Because don't forget, you don't have to be a superstar. As long as you fit his system and he can mold you into the type of player that he wants you to play as and in the team with everybody else, it can work. And I think he's got the potential to do that. So if we sold Kane, I think he would adapt, and I think he would get players in that he wants to mold and he knows he can mold, and he knows will give him experience and listen to how he wants to play. I think it would work.
Welcome, Mike. If you can now hear us, can you now hear us, Hotspur Hustler?
I can. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Perfect.
Loud and clear.
Live studio talkings, whatever it is we're calling ourselves. That's how it goes when you go live. It's just things happen. But anyway, he's here with us. So we've kind of got into a few things. We're looking at obviously you know what a talking point is. If you had to choose, and it's just a theoretical type of question. The two guys below have said Conte. I'm still gonna wait. I'm gonna debate up until get to the end of the show and then make my decision on that. But still gonna throw out some few things. But if you had to choose now, Conte or Kane, and then give us some reasons behind that as well.
Do you know what? This is a difficult question.
I know it is.
like
that's why he never answers the question he always asks.
That is so true. We're gonna get him back to.
It's such a difficult question because, part of me says I'd have Conte over Kane because Conte is a proven winner. If you back him, 9 times out of 10, he's going to be successful. But my fear is, if we got rid of Kane, who would you replace him with? And I don't know if we'd be able to.
But that's the thing, Mike. Would you have to replace him with one? Could you replace him with two different players?
And that's my issue. So if you're replacing him with, first of all, I don't think we'd get another top class striker in Kane's mold that would be prepared to come to Tottenham in our current state. And so, like you just said, we'd have to get a couple of players to make up for Kane's loss, i.e. a player to make up for the creativity aspect, and then a player to make up for, or a couple of players to make up for the lack of goals that we would probably miss from getting rid of Kane. So
because you're right, because you know what, even if you got 100 million for Kane and you spent 100 million on Haaland, I don't think Haaland gives you as much creativity output in terms of the assists and stuff.
The passing alone.
That's what I'm saying. So the goals you might get, we might get, if like I said, you spent 80 million on Vlahovic or even Lewandowski, you get that goal output. But we've got to think about what else Kane gives us. And this is what I'm trying to open up, because I see what everybody's saying, why Conte is so important. But when you think about it, Nuno was getting... Okay, start again. If Kane wants to play for Spurs and says, right, I'm putting my head down, I want to beat all these records, I don't really think it really matters which type of manager, provided we've got the players around him. Kane's always going to get 20 goals a season.
A minimum.
Conte might get another 5 goals out of him. He may even get a few more out of him, or better playing or whatever. But you add that with the assists and all that, I think his value is more than just 100 million that he might be on a physical value. So that's why I'm just adding that out there. So yeah, go on.
So do you think he should sign a contract? Sorry, quick question. Do you think if he signs a contract, that doesn't confirm that he's going to stay? Because if he signs 12-month extension, 18-month extension to match Conte, he could also then go in that same summer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And be worth more, so we get more for him.
Players, I know we can't believe everything that players say, but if Harry Kane came out and says, I want to commit my future and my rest of my career to Spurs, which
I ain't convinced
potentially is 5 or 6 years, I would say, shit, yes. Him over Conte in that sense, because I know you're going to get, based on what I'm seeing yesterday and the players that are at that high level, Kane is going to get us them goals. But as well as that, he's going to get the assist because he's going to start being probably even more of a playmaker going forward. So his value to us is a lot more than 100 million, in my opinion.
Yeah, and with Kane, like, if he's not getting the goals and he's starting to be like, the goals are slightly drying up, you could mold him into a number 10 quite comfortably, because a number 10 doesn't have to be all over the pitch, but if he knows how to create just from his vision and his ability to slot a ball through for the front, I don't know whether it's the front, like the striker or anyone in a front three, if we're playing a three up top or 2 up top, whatever it might be. Kane's got that ability that I think as he gets older, and he might not, his pace might, I know he's never had pace, but if he gets slower, he's going to be less of a threat to a back line. Whereas if you put him in as a number 10 as he gets older, his vision and his passing and his range of passing, it becomes an asset in itself, which you're like, oh, hold on a second. All of a sudden, you don't need a number 10 because you've got Kane. So it's like,
that's a really good shout. That's a really good shout.
I hate, like, Conte is going to be here for another season. I think he'll be here for another season, in my opinion. But after that, it's like, well, with that Conte boat passed, and so
the thing is,
what if Conte leaves and Kane's form drops in?
So I was going to say this: the only way that Kane can walk out is if he that. When I say walk out, I mean stop playing. Is if he downs tools. Conte could say, "I want to leave," and walk out on his contract, so he could leave. Kane can't do that, but Kane effectively could down tools, as maybe what we've seen at the beginning of this season. But I think with Kane chasing these records, I think he's now he said, you know what? Even if I've got to stay at Spurs against I want to chase these records. Hence why I'm seeing that I think he'll still score the goals, even if he was like saying, right, I'm going to see my contract out for the next couple of years. If he was to re-sign, that tells me, right, at least with Spurs now, we've got that commitment from him. I think we're going to get 5 or 6 years out of him of top quality, regardless of it's that ratio of goals to assists. I think we've got to look at.
I think if Conte stays for another season, Kane will sit tight.
Yeah, but then he'll have to sign a contract because they'll never let him get down. He's got 2 years left this summer. So, like, for me, if he doesn't go this summer, he'll have to sign a contract because they won't let him. They won't let him run it down to it. Like, Mbappe is going to go on a free to Real Madrid. PSG are going to have the biggest egg on their face for the rest of their whole club. For the rest of their club history, they will always look at this. Their record signing went on a free to their biggest rivals or one of their biggest rivals. Kane isn't going to be allowed to do that. He's not going to be allowed to do that. So for me, they will basically, I think he'll be smart enough to put a release clause in his contract, but he will have to sign a contract this summer. Like, regardless of what happens, they'll either be like, you're going now or you have to sign a contract. And that's why I think that it's not going to be a case of if he signs a contract, it's almost confirming Kane's going to be at that level and committed, because I just don't think a contract really says anything anymore. I think that Kane will learn his lesson from what happened this summer gone, and he will be like, okay, if I have to sign another contract, you're going to put in 120 as a release clause. If somebody comes in, you have to sell me. So I don't necessarily think a contract correlates to his attitude.
We put the same emphasis on managers because everybody's saying Conte's not. Conte's very comfortable, but we're all thinking to ourselves, at some way, shape, or form, you know, Conte's only got a year and a bit left on his contract. He could go by next summer. He could even go this summer if he doesn't get his funds. At any given point, Conte could say, I've not got my funds. Things are not going too well. He can do that. The club can also say at some point during that tenure, he's not doing too well. We're going to get rid of him. The only time they can do that with Kane is the transfer window. As you rightly said, Darius, if he doesn't go this summer and doesn't sign, I'd be very worried as a Spurs fan.
That's worse. In my opinion, that's worse than selling him this summer. If he stays and doesn't sign a contract, that's worst case scenario for me, because then you go into January, you're having to think about selling him in January where you're halfway through a season. You then go to the end of that season and he's got a year left on his deal. He'll stay put and he'll go for free to wherever he wants to go. And that's the worst case scenario.
I don't think he can afford, unless he's committed to Spurs, I don't think he can afford to just be like, you know what, I've got another year, I'll just stay tight, because he's knocking on, isn't he? Who's going to want him at 32?
Oh, he's only what? How old is he? 28 now?
29.
He'll be 31 when his contract runs out. I think he'll be. In my opinion, if he keeps fit, like Sam said, he isn't the type to be going out partying. He will very much work on maintaining his fitness. I think that very, very easily, and even you said it, Mike, and that completely again changes my opinion on his importance. I could see Man City buying him at 31 and saying, you're gonna be more of a creative player for us. I could see Man United buying him and say, you're going to play up front with somebody who's got the pace. You drop into I could see teams still seeing the value in him.
Do you think he goes to somewhere like Man United, though? Because Man United are no better position than us.
It depends who they get, though, manager.
What do you think? So what you said?
I say it depends on who Man United get as manager. I think, from what I've heard, that United were more favourites now than Man City. But it's like Darius was saying as well. It all depends on Ronaldo's situation, Cavani's situation, which manager comes in. I mean, if Poch goes to Man United, right, then you could potentially see Poch making a bid for him, and he might be thinking, do you know what? I loved it under Poch. I might go there, because Man United.
He's not guaranteed. He's not guaranteed to win anything under Poch, is he? He can't win anything under PSG. So Kane might be thinking, I've played under you, and as much as I like you, what have I won?
But look at the club, though. Man United,
but they're no better than us.
Yeah, no, but as a club, they're known for winning things, right? They're renowned for winning things. But it's only the last few years they haven't won much. But if we're going to look at it as a whole round issue, they're more successful by far than Spurs, right?
For Kane for the whole reason for Kane leaving is because he wants to win trophies now. So if he goes to Man United, he ain't going to win a trophy like now, because Man United,
2 years can make a big difference, though. That's the thing.
What I'm saying. Yeah,
but 2 years you're talking 2 years down the line. Like, we're talking at the end of this year, whether Kane stays or whether Kane goes.
Oh, it's only Man City for me. Oh yeah, if you're talking this summer, I think it's Man City. I don't know what Sid thinks.
2 years down the line, Man United might not even be bothered with Kane. They'll probably have the next big thing, or be after the next big player that's coming through. That is a natural number 10, or someone that's a natural goal scorer who's quicker, hungrier, fitter than Kane, who's less injury prone than him. I think Kane. It's a difficult one. It is difficult. I don't know.
Let me flip it then for all of you. If we talked about if Kane was to sign a long-term contract, would that make a difference? And if Conte was, let's say, to come at the end of this summer, Conte says, you know what? I've never really stayed much beyond 2 years at most clubs, but I'm now going to sign another extra 3 years on top. So instead of 2023 Spurs, I'm committing myself to 2026. Because all these timescales make a difference, because that shows me, right, I know at any given moment things change in football. We can get rid of him, he can leave. But when managers show commitment, it shows, right, they either live for the long term. Pep said the same thing at Manchester City. Klopp's done the same thing at Liverpool, giving themselves this time. I know when they come to the end of their contracts, they say, we're going to negotiate, but you know they're going to stay. If Conte comes and says, 2026, fellas, Does that change your opinion, Mike? Firstly,
yes. If Conte stays, like you just said there, and he was signing a long-term contract, then yes, I think it would change my mind. Insofar as I'd have Conte over Kane, but right now, I'd probably be in the favour of keeping Kane over Conte, which might sound mad, but I just don't see who Tottenham could bring it. I know there's that whole argument. Well, if you get Kane and get the funds from Kane, well, you can go out and buy XYZ player, but you've got to entice those players that we need, who will have that quality that we're missing or lacking at the moment, to actually sort of put us on that pedestal of, we can compete again for trophies. We can be competing for top 4, etc. Whereas right now, there's players that we could build around Kane and Son. I'm going to chuck Son in there. I know he's not part of this, but there's players out there that we could put in and around Kane who could get us back onto that pedestal of competing again. Whereas I think if we take Kane out, I just think it's a massive loss, and I just don't see how. I think it's all very well saying, we get rid of Kane, we rebuild, but us as a fan base right now, if we did that, we're not going to be patient for another 2 seasons waiting for us to come good again. So
that's a very good point.
So, but where's the money coming from to get these players that are of the quality of Kane if he stays? Because that's what I'm saying. When you get the money from Kane, you can spend that money. Where's the money coming from if Kane was to stay?
But just look at the 2 players we've got now. Sorry, Mike. I was just going to say, look at the 3 players we've got in Romero, Bentancur, and Kulusevski. If they all work out over the long term, based on how much we've spent on them, that's what, less than 100 million probably?
It is, no, because Kulusevski would be like about 120, to be honest, because Kulusevski would be 40 million euros. Okay. Romero was 50, and then Bentancur was about 25. So it's still it's over 100 million spent on those 3 players. But like I said, that 100 million spent was very, very, very well spent, and it's filled holes in our team.
But look at the players that are on the market come the summer. You're not going to need to spend big money to bring them in.
You don't need to spend any, to be honest.
This is it. So this is where I'm like, why would we want to get rid of Kane now? Like, why would we get rid of Kane over Conte now, when if we kept Kane and brought in the players that are on the market, whereby we wouldn't have to spend any money necessarily on transfers, and we could instead use that money for paying wages, you could build a team around Kane. We could have a team that, like, keep Son, keep Kane, keep Kulu, bring in players that could fit around Kane, etc. That from an attacking perspective, and we're stronger. Whereas you take Kane, I keep going back to this point. You take Kane out, we are far weaker, and I think we wouldn't realise how big a miss he is unless he left. I just think we'd struggle massively. We wouldn't know what to do. Do we go out and try and entice one player to fill in for Kane's void, or do we go out and have to pay 2 or 3 players to sort of make up for what we miss from him?
I think we need at least 2 personally, Sid. But I just want to ask Sid this thing: if Conte was to sign, like we were saying, to 2000, does it reinforce your thoughts that Conte's? I'm not saying necessarily it's more important, but if you had the choice between the summertime, I know they're probably of equal importance for different reasons. But if Conte was to sign, how would that shift your thought process towards Conte and Kane in terms of more importance?
So this is how I probably see. If Conte says I'm going to sign till 2026, right? I think Kane's going to turn around and say, do you know what? You've just got one of the best managers in the world, committed himself till 2026. I'm going to commit myself for the next 2 years on the basis, once my 2 years is up, I've given you everything, right? Then you let me go. If it means a freebie, it means a freebie. If you get anything out of it, then so be it. But I'll commit myself, because if one of the top managers in the world is committing himself to Tottenham, then that means he sees things, he sees the future for Spurs, and I want to be part of that, and I will give you everything for the next 2 years. I'll commit myself, but then you have to put it in that contract to say, after that 2 years, no matter what's happened, if we're doing crap, we've not won any trophies, then you allow me to go. If we've won and I want to stay, I'll stay. If not, you let me go. So it's a win-win situation, and I think it all depends on Kane, what Conte does. If Conte decides to stay, then I think Kane will commit himself. If Conte says I'm walking, then we've got a problem.
What's your thoughts, Darius?
I don't know, because I think Conte committing himself is more like his long-term future. Conte, if he was to commit himself till, let's say, 2026, is more beneficial for us. You look at Inter Milan; he was there for 2 and a bit years. He's left that team in a state where they can go and challenge for the title, even after losing Lukaku. They're still a good enough team to go and challenge for that title again with Inzaghi. So Conte has a track record with good squad building, let alone sort of the title contending. Kane, again, you guys have made amazing points that I cannot really combat with, that really do support sort of Kane's importance to this team. But the only question I can ask is, what would be worse? Sort of Kane, what would you find worse? Kane going for 100 million in the summer, so us losing Kane in the summer, but getting 100 million, or Kane, like Sid just said, given 2 years of his best football and then going on a free, and then us having pretty much no money to sort of source from, because some will be 32 by then. Where do you get the money from? Like, what's worse, to see Kane go on a free or to see Kane go sooner, 2 years earlier?
Do you know what? If Kane went on a free, but it meant that we got trophies, I'd be like,
that's worth it. Yeah,
I'll take the freebie as a hit. I'll take that. Yeah.
That's worth it.
I wouldn't care. I honestly wouldn't care if Tottenham had to let Kane go on a freebie if it meant we had trophies.
That's not a guarantee. Like, that's the only problem.
See you later, mate. Take the freebie. Yeah. Enjoy wherever you're going. Thanks for the trophies.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I don't think we. If Kane's, it's a really, really tough one, because you look at the financial side of things and you think to yourself, if Kane says he's not going to re-sign a contract and he's going to go on 2024, you'd think that the club would want to have to sell between now and next season. But I just don't think, even if we were to sell Kane and get 100 million, I can't see how we can do. Just looking at how he's playing now,
he's playing out his skin now.
I can't see how we could replace that, even in the short term. In the long term, we'd have to develop players within the academy. We'd have to be very lucky in the transfer market. We'd have to hope that players step up within the club in itself. We were saying that if Kane had gone this summer, we were saying Son's going to have to step up. But then, has Son stepped up to the same level that we've appreciated Kane to have stepped up? Or is Son working because Kane's doing exactly... I don't know all these answers to these questions, and it's a massive risk. But I do know, if I keep Harry Kane, I'm guaranteed 20 goals, because I think he's chasing records regardless of who's there at the club. If he decides that he's going to just do that, if he says, you know what, I want to move because I want to win trophies, and we can't offer him that because he's seen that, we are not getting the players, etc., etc., it's a different matter then. And it really becomes a toss-up, is would you keep an unhappy player that's not going to score you the goals just because, you don't want to sell him? It does depend on Harry Kane, 100%. Harry Kane committed, I think he's more important than Conte, in my opinion. Having now discussed it with you guys.
I think Kane's probably more important than Conte. At this precise moment in time, the value him as a player, I just don't think you can replace it at the moment.
But the thing is, one player doesn't win you cups and titles. A manager wins you cups and titles with the team that he puts out.
That's a very good point from Sid. And also, just to piggyback on that, I do think, like you said, Mike, as much as the overall game or the overall playing style of Harry Kane and what he does on the pitch will never be replicated, I think that there are players out there that have his skill set, just there isn't one. I just think you have to be smart. Like, for example, SUBSRCRIBE at Leipzig again. He's very similar in his passing range. He's got excellent passing range. He's got a great free kick, great shot on him. You get someone like him in who won't be that expensive, and you can spend money on a striker. You might not even need to get a striker who's like Harry Kane. A faster striker?
My argument would be, if Kane's not here, why would he come? Why would any of these top players come?
Because I think Conte has that pull. I genuinely think Conte is that manager that can convince minimum Serie A players. There's something about Conte that those Serie A players gravitate towards him. They see him as what he's done in that league, and I do believe that having Conte there has allowed us to get Kulusevski, has allowed us to get Bentancur. I don't think those players join Tottenham Hotspur if Conte's not there. So,
but,
and I don't think they join if Kane is there either. That's another point.
But although those players are playing well, would you say that I wouldn't put them in the bracket of Harry Kane or Son?
No,
to me, they've still got a lot to prove, and they've got to be consistent over a season, not just they've come in sort of halfway through the season, and you can do well in half a season, but doing that consistently over a season is a different kettle of fish, especially in the Premier League. But we need players that are. If Harry Kane leaves, and our only world-class player then is Son, who he's out on the wing. So I just don't see what would. Okay, you've got Conte, but if these players are looking and it's like, oh, you've got a bang average team, though, Conte. I'm like,
can I just say something, Mike?
I've got other teams here that are on the same sort of pedestal, but they've got more chance of winning silverware with the players they've got, even if the manager's not as good. I mean, the manager's only as good as his team, isn't he? Really? I mean, you've seen it this season. Like Conte's, he's as good as what the players that he's got in front of him. So, like, unless you've got a very good team, it doesn't matter who your manager is. You've got to have a decent team to be able to push for trophies, and we're seeing that now. We haven't got a good enough team, hence why we've been knocked out of every cup competition and we're struggling in the league.
So Sid, you was going to make a point, because I think Sid's got a point about the manager making the difference, over long term in terms of trophy success, blah blah blah. One player, because even if you look at the likes of Messi and Ronaldo, they need quality players around them. I know that they win matches, but they don't necessarily win titles in Champions League on their own. They obviously got a very, very high contribution. But the question I will then ask, if you took Conte out of the equation now, with the players that we've got, is there, apart from the likelihood of Pep Guardiola or Klopp coming to our team, are any of the other managers in the Premier League likely to get Spurs higher and win more potentially than Conte with the current setup? I'm saying keeping Harry Kane, keeping a happy Harry Kane, happy Son, all the rest of them that we've got now, because that makes a difference now. If we're saying that Conte could potentially, we're talking about Conte, he's a seasoned professional that wins league titles. Let's say theoretically we have got a team that can win a league title with Spurs, with the ones that we've got. I know it's not realistic, but let's say it is. Could another manager do that? Apart from those two I've mentioned, the Guardiolas and the Klopps.
In the Prem?
In the Prem.
I don't think there is any other manager, to be fair, in the Prem that could get Spurs to...
No Thomas Tuchel?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about him. Yeah. He could be available soon. He could be
he could be available very soon.
You know what? Let me just say, you know what?
Steven Gerrard's got the potential.
I think the only one who has is Graham Potter, to be honest.
There's Potter.
Yeah.
Although we dismissed the other managers because they're only managing teams that are like low down the league. Like
I'm dismissing them because our players are shit. To be honest with you,
Dean Smith's a cracking manager.
Yeah,
he's a good manager.
Very good manager. Same as Sean Dyche. What's his surname? Dyche.
Sean Dyche. The thing is, Mike, the players are so garbage. Like we're seeing, like this. Any manager, Conte's improved Ben Davies, Conte's improved Harry Winks, Conte's improved Eric Dyer, Conte's improved Davinson Sanchez, Conte's improved a lot of players. Matt Doherty, it's still not good enough for Tottenham. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you can improve a player, but they're still not good enough for Tottenham.
Yeah.
So until these players go, and you have to be harsh and you have to be, a little bit not violent, vigilant, and sort of say, right, you've got to go. It's time to go. Like you're not good enough. Until those players go, I don't think any manager is going to do as good as Conte. However, I understand that if you were to get rid of all the players and then bring in players that would suit, I don't know, a Potter's style or Bruno Lage's style or Ralph Hasenhüttl's style, I do think that Tottenham could probably do just as well. But no manager's doing as well as Conte is with these players. We've seen what Nuno was going to get us relegated with this team. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, we were heading that way, and there's not much has changed in that team. We've actually lost more players than we've gained. So you could say the squad's probably weakened, and Conte's doing as good a job as he can do. So
I think what Mike was saying before about superstars, right? I'm just going to give you the example, and we saw it yesterday. PSG with the superstars that they've got, one of the top 3 players in the world, Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe. But as a team, they're useless, they're pathetic, they're hopeless, right? And Tuchel was there with them top players, and he couldn't do nothing. He's gone to Chelsea. He ain't got any superstars, but he's got a squad of players that he thinks can win, and he's got the mentality into them, and they've delivered for him. So exactly what you're saying, Darius and Mike as well. If somebody like Potter or somebody that probably, I know I said maybe not, but if you had somebody like Potter or somebody like that comes into Spurs with their philosophy, their players, and they get a group of players, not superstars, but a group of players that are willing to play for each other, with each other, for the club, we probably could do something, because there's no one better than everybody else. There's no superstar that they're relying on, but it's a bunch of players all playing for themselves, for the club, and for the manager wanting to win.
Yeah, but how many, apart from Leicester City that season, how many teams have won the league without any world-class players in it?
At the same time, you could say, look at the teams that have won the league. Look at the managers. I mean, Pep and Klopp are the only winners of the league in recent memory, to be honest, apart from Leicester. So I think the manager is just as important. I mean, City had Pellegrini, who won a league and then did a bit average, and I just think the manager is like Klopp. Liverpool don't do as well without Klopp in that team. Mane, Salah, and Firmino aren't as good players. Like, those players don't become those players without Klopp as the manager. If you see where I'm coming from, I don't think that if you had Steven Gerrard at Liverpool when they signed Mo Salah, that he becomes 40 goal a season Mo Salah. I think Klopp gets those players to that level, and that's a value in itself.
Do you think Steven Gerrard, being the player that he was, would get the players to respect him to get? Because I think Steven Gerrard's got a very good potential, more so than Frank Lampard, in my opinion. But you could look at them being the same sort of status in terms of players. If I was to choose between them two, it's definitely Steven Gerrard for me, even though I know
player-wise.
Well, no, in terms of manager-wise, in terms of potential, because they're both, you know what I mean, player-wise, you know what I mean, it's a bit of a toss-up. Some argue that Gerrard's a more of a complete player, but Lampard, you can't argue with Lampard's goals. Man's number 5 as a midfielder, 170. That's mad. Anyway, different argument.
Lampard for me. Sorry, that's a different argument though.
Different argument. But potentially manager-wise, I think Steven Gerrard. So if Steven Gerrard come to Spurs now, could I see him getting? I don't think obviously he's a level of Conte. Let's get it twisted. But could he get enough out of these players based around the way I've seen him get a lot out of these Aston Villa players? And I think we've got better players than Aston Villa. Yeah, I don't think it'll be too far difference, and maybe I still think we'll be in the round about the top 4 to top 8 shout.
Yeah,
which is what 100%. I think Conte is going to do to us. So if Conte was to walk in the summertime and we were to get someone like Steven Gerrard, we haven't got the potential to be top 2, but I wouldn't say we were going to be bottom half now. Definitely I'd still say we're top 8.
What, with the same players or with the same players?
With the same players. However, what I was going to say to that was, if you take Harry Kane completely out of the picture this summer, even with Conte in, and like I'm saying, Conte doesn't get all these players that he really wants, can't replace Harry Kane.
Game over.
I don't think even Conte would be able to get us top 6 to top 4 based on what I'm seeing when the drop-off was such that we had, certain players out. That's my worry. I think I'm only saying about this coming summer. As a longevity thing, I agree with what Sid's saying. Maybe we can build, but not in one season. That's the difference.
And us as a fan base, we're done with waiting, aren't we? Like, we've been how many more times do we say, we're just rebuilding, we're rebuilding. We've gone for a rebuild probably from 2010.
We've done more rebuilds than IKEA have done in their stores.
Yeah, you're probably right, mate.
Yeah.
It really is. All right then. So let's go around again then. Sid, start with you. Has anything changed your opinion? Like I said, you was very much Conte. As I said, I it's a very difficult one, and I'm not saying, but if I was having to choose, I was forced to for this summer. I'm saying Kane's more important. If you look at it over the long period of 5-6 years, and Conte was to commit to 5-6 years, I'm obviously going to say Conte. He's disappeared. What's he gone off for?
I'm here.
Oh, you're there still. All right, mate. Go on then.
Right. I still think, you know what? I reckon, right, this is how it's going to turn out. It all depends in the summer on what Conte does will determine what Kane does. Simple. If Conte doesn't get backed in the summer, right, then I see both of them walking. It's as simple as that, because Kane's going to think, well, if he's not going to back one of the best managers we've ever had, well, almost has at Tottenham, then there's no point me staying, because they're not going to buy players that are going to get us to that next level to win trophies, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to be a major problem. But however, if Conte decides to, just stick out for the summer and see what happens, then I think Kane will be probably thinking, yeah, do you know what? It's looking good. They're backing the manager. I've got trust in him. He's got trust in me. And, he's bought Bentancur. He's bought Kulusevski. It's like what Darius says as well. If they go and then get a right wing back, potentially a Spence, or even there's a couple of names being mentioned.
Yeah.
Then there's a possibility. But it's a very, very tough question, right? It's a
come on,
question.
Splinter Sid, get them bloody splinters out, Sid. Come on, give me one of the answers.
I'm still saying Conte is more important to me personally, because it's a long, like I said, it's a long term Conte for me all day long.
Fair enough.
Well, not all day long, but
it's some good points. Like I said, it's not an easy one. Darius, come back to you. Has anything kind of made it a bit of a closer argument? Are you still Conte? If we're just talking about this summer, for me, it's Kane is more important. But like I said, if it was longer term, it's Conte.
I think you both made great points. I think the one that stuck out for me was what Mike said in terms of, if Kane was to stay here longer term and you were to convert him to a more of a creative midfielder, number 10, there's still value in him as a player to play in that role. I mean, like you said, Mike, if he just found that space in the middle, he caught that ball on the half turn and had anywhere, he maintained that sort of passing ability that he's got. He looked like Kevin De Bruyne. He would look like Kevin De Bruyne. Because
he would save us 100 million.
He would, and you would then at the end of the day maybe potentially say, look, Kane, after 2 years is gone, you sign a contract, we're going to play slightly deeper. We're going to bring in a striker who we want to then take over as a striker, and we want you to sort of guide him into that role, and then you ease him into that role. So as Kane drops deeper, that striker, then there's loads of ways to do it. It's a great point, and it does show Kane's importance to the team. However, we've had Kane for 7-8 years now, and we've not won a trophy. If Conte was to leave and Kane was to stay, and we bring in a manager like a Graham Potter or anyone like that, I don't think we are any closer to a trophy. However, if we were to sell Kane for 100 million and make the right signings, and the track record so far with Conte and PRTv suggests that we are making the right signings, then I do believe that we can win a trophy in literally the next season with Conte, even without Kane. I do believe that if we get two of the right signings in, an FA Cup, a Carabao Cup, even if we get into the Europa League is definitely not off the cards without Kane. So maybe not the Premier League, but again, were we ever going to win the Premier League with the teams in our league? So looking at the cups, I think without Kane, you can still win an FA Cup. You can still win a Carabao Cup. I mean, we can't win it with him. So we can't beat Middlesbrough with Harry Kane. So who's to say that we can beat any team without him? I mean, yeah, that's probably my stance on it.
No, good points. Some good points. Like I said, both you and raised some good points. Mike, has it reinforced your Kane, or is there still a more of a closer debate between Conte and Kane for this summer, potentially?
If I had to choose in the summer between Kane and Conte, I'm sticking with Kane. Big shout, I know, and there's probably people in the comments that'll be like, "You're mad," but I would stick with Kane over Conte if it was a choice this summer, just purely on the basis that I know that there's players out there that we could still bring in and build around Spurs and we could still become a better team with Kane. With Kane in the team, we can attract players. We can still bring in players that could improve us. But if it was long term, if it was a choice between long term, whether it was Kane or Conte, then I would choose Conte, because then I could see, we've got more chance of building something special with Conte at the helm. But he has to be here long term, and there's too much to do at Spurs in the short term. If Conte stays short term, there's too much for him to do without Kane that I think would be I just can't see us winning anything without someone like Kane who is going to guarantee you, whether he's had a bad season, don't forget. Kane's had a bad season and he's still notched 20 goals and he's playing very well now. Whatever discussions have taken place, I think it's done the trick with Kane, and he is playing. And you can see on the pitch his performance.
I think that City game was probably the best I've ever seen Harry Kane play in a Tottenham shirt.
You could argue Liverpool. He was very good against Liverpool.
I agree. He has been sort of like, even if he hasn't scored an assist in every game, some of the performances he's put in is just like, without him, we would be literally nowhere, wouldn't we?
And this is the problem. Like, short term, if you get rid of Kane but you kept Conte, what's Conte realistically going to be able to do in a short amount of time? If we've lost Kane, we still need. If you look at the players that we need a left wing back. We need probably another centre back. We need another centre midfielder. We need a right wing back. And then if you've not got Kane, then you've got to either add another striker or add another couple of players just to mitigate that loss of a striker as well as the creativity. And Conte's, although he's a world-class manager, he's not a magician. So
we need to get Azzy on. We need to get Azzy on the board. Get Azzy on the board.
I'm going to read his comment. Kane is good for Spurs PR, but in reality, Dybala on a free, Balotelli on a free, and 50 on Schlick with Conte, we might look a different team. Again, it's very true. You get them players in, and let's say Kane was gone, you'd still say that them players have to hit the ground running in that season. So look at next season. If Kane stays and we spend, let's say, £250 million, I would say there's a high chance of us winning something next season. I still think it's going to be very difficult to even challenge to win the league because of the teams that are in there. However, with 250 million and Harry Kane, with Conte, I think we should be winning something. Without Harry Kane and spending 250 million, I'm just not sure. I really am not.
Look at Azzy. Azzy's only spent 50 million there.
I get what you're saying.
But these players, they've got to come into the Premier League and hit the ground.
But that's what Bentancur and Kulusevski is. But this is what I'm saying. Kulusevski and Bentancur have done that. They've hit 100%
agree. If we keep Kane and did that, then I'm all for it. But I'm saying if Kane went and he did that, and even with bringing 2 or 3 other players, the loss of Kane, because you have to think these players, we have to be so lucky, like we've done with Kulusevski and what's his name, Bentancur. Look how many times we've been unlucky.
It's not necessarily luck. I think it's just good scouting and knowing what you need for the system. I don't even think it's luck.
You're quite correct.
But even
if they failed, let's say for whatever reason, do you know what I mean? I know Harry Kane, without injury, Harry Kane is going to give us them numbers next season.
And it's all very well, like these players, they're very good players. You could argue some of them are world-class players, but when you come into the Premier League, as we've seen with players in the past that have world-class ability, they've not been able to, for whatever reason, do it in the Premier League because either the pace, the physicality, like Dybala coming in up top. Would he be strong enough to handle a Premier League defense? Like, you just don't know.
Dybala and Kane is a strike partnership. Sounds amazing to me. I think we need somebody like that as well.
So as he's making some good points, Kane could get injured, but could all 3 get injured? No, I completely agree. If you get 3 players in, you're reducing your risk. But what I'm saying is, even by bringing in them 3 players, we've seen that. We had Gareth Bale go 1 player and brought in 7. We got 1 player out of that. Christina,
I trust in PRTv. If there's anything like Bentancur and Kulusevski, I think that changes it. But you make a good point about that. Yeah, you do make a good point about that.
If we get everything right and our scouting is better and we do better in the transfer window than we've done previously, I am very happy with what they're doing. If they can get the likes of Kulusevski and Bentancur and Romero's in the future.
Yeah, Romero's.
I'm just trying to balance up. Well, if they don't get that right, you know what I mean. So yeah, the ideal scenario: Conte, Kane. Get them players in. Conte says, yeah, I like this. I'm going to go on for a couple more years. You know what? Conte's staying, I'm staying. Happy days for everybody at Spurs if that was to be the case. Gentlemen, I think that's about us, isn't it? 4 brilliant games, though.
I've got something.
Go on in.
It's been going around, and this will keep Mike happy as well. And it'll keep Harry Kane happy as well, because we need to discuss this, right? Because it's been discussed in the changing rooms. What is there more in the world, wheels or doors?
Doors.
Have you not seen it on Twitter in the Spurs changing rooms? They've had a massive conversation, and Harry Kane reckons there's more doors than wheels in the world, and it's trending on Twitter. Check it. I'm telling you. So we need to talk about it. What do you reckon?
Doors has to be doors.
I've never given that serious thought.
Put it like this. Put it like this. How many doors are in a house, and how many houses are there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, how many wheels?
How many cars? And how many wheels?
There's more than 4 doors in a house.
Yeah, but wheels. You've got wheels on roller skates. You've got 4 wheels on a roller skate. How many pairs of roller skates could then you have? You know what I mean?
Yeah, skateboard, bikes, cars.
Have you been to jail? How many doors are in jail? That's all I'm gonna say.
But how many trolleys are being pushed up and down with canteen, dirty, mucky food?
I'm saying wheels.
Yes, I'm telling you.
You've been to a hotel? You've been to a hotel?
Yeah, you look at the trolleys.
Yes.
Hotels got more than one door.
Oh,
Is a wardrobe a door? Is a wardrobe a door? I think a wardrobe's a door.
Live.
I think a shelf might be a door.
I cannot believe what's happening live on stream. We are arguing over doors and wheels. Come on, Sid, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Listen, I saw it on Twitter, right? And it's when we finish this stream, go on Twitter and search it.
Doors.
Ben Davis, Harry Kane, and all them lot. Honest to God, they've had a full-blown conversation about this, and Harry Kane is serious about doors, and he's giving his insight into why there's more doors.
5 doors on most cars. Monjo, thank you very much. Rest my case.
He's also got 4 wheels on most cars as well.
Bro,
he's got 4 wheels.
Most cars have 5 wheels because they've got a spare in the boot.
Exactly.
The boot is a door. The boot's a door. Add another door on.
As he's saying, a watch has 10 to 15 wheels. That's right. Yes.
It's wheels, man. It's definitely wheels. It can't be doors. Can't be doors. No way. Anyway, we're getting out of this. This is what kind of wormhole have we got into? This is madness. This is literally lunacy going on. I think it's wheels. Though. I'm saying wheels. I'm sticking with the wheels.
I agree. Look, everyone's talking about it.
It's madness.
Mike, you have to snip this, and we're gonna put it onto Tottenham. I'm gonna forward it to Harry Kane as well. We've got to do it seriously.
It's got to be wheels. It's got to be wheels. This is a mad one. It's making my head spin. Well, we've got the serious thing of Manchester United on Saturday. Obviously, we've got preview shows coming up. There's a preview show actually happening now on the Manchester United agenda, where 2 of our representatives, MisterK and Sean Hurl, are debating what's happening. They kicked off at 8:30, so go and see what's happening on the Manchester United agenda.
Can I go on there? Because I'm going to go on there and I'm going to ask them the question.
I'm going to go.
I'm going to ask them about doors or wheels.
You've got to mess their old stream up as well.
We should all jump on there now.
Yeah, we should shoot it.
But anyway, going back to that. So yeah, go and look out for that. We've got representation there. We've got our preview show tomorrow, 2:30, I believe it is. Then we've got Artsid. Have we got Artsid tomorrow?
Do you know what? I've got 2 birthdays to celebrate.
Oh, so you got to do the doors and wheels thing if you were doing.
I might do. Actually, shall we do that? Yeah. Yes. Ask Sid tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Is there more wheels or doors in the world? Yes, let's do it.
That's funny as hell. 5:30 on Saturday, we kick off against Manchester United at Old Trafford. So the pre-review show will be at 7:35-ish. But we've also got maybe some representation on the Manchester United agenda. So look out for our sister channel and what they're doing there as well. Since it is the weekend of Manchester United versus Spurs, Conte, can he wreck Ralph's plans? Did you see what I did there? Did you see what I did there? Do you like that one?
I love that one. I love you're thinking with me. And this could be the first time in many years that we do the double over both Manchester clubs.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Wait, did we beat Man United in the first game?
Yes, we did.
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, we did. Yes, we
didn't. That was the game that Nuno lost, and we kept him, didn't he? If
we
won,
lost.
Yes.
No, we lost.
Yes.
We lost. Yes.
No, we got beat 3-0, didn't we?
Yes, we did. We got beat. Yes.
And that's why they kept Ollie, because they beat us.
That's right.
It was El Sacico. Can you remember? It was El Sacico that match.
I was going to say we definitely didn't get beat by
El
Manchester.
Sacico.
It was important for some reason.
It was El Sacico, weren't it? Yeah.
It was El Sacico. I remember when we were talking about whoever.
I agree.
Ah, Jesus. Right. Anyway, we've got a few things to look out for. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. clean. Please helps us out massively if you hit that like button and you subscribe. Share the content as well. All the fans who are Spurs fans, even those who are not Spurs fans, make sure you share that content. Just a couple more. No, it was free. What's this about? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Man United score.
Oh yeah, free. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we got beaten.
Oh,
Definitely.
Spursy 141. Look.
Don't forget those houses, Darius. They've got those on them. No, I'm getting out of here. This is crazy talk here. We lost, but we won. Exactly right, Mojo.
Yeah. That's
We
what I'm
lost,
saying.
but we were the big winners because we got
We didn't lose.
We won.
We never lost.
We won. That's what I'm saying. We're going to do the double. Love it.
Oh man, that you can feel that like that hysteria is building up towards a weekend again of football, guys. So that can only mean one thing. Tottenham are playing. I think we've got a good chance against them lot. We've really got a good chance. We just got to make sure that we against Matt Chuck Maguire. Come on, I'm gonna go across now and watch them lot of Man United agenda because if they're telling me that he can keep Harry Kane in his pocket. He's got fucking holes in his pockets. That's what he's got. He's got holes in his pockets. Anyway, that's enough of that now, gentlemen. Mike, Darius, Sid, come on, you Spurs. See you at the weekend, guys. Take it easy.